Hey, moms and dads, boys and girls. Thanks for joining me on Stories with Samantha. Today, what I'd like to do is teach you parents how to use books to encourage your child to learn new words and sounds. So, the first thing that I like to do when establishing some sort of book experience is to start with establishing a routine. So, the first part of establishing that routine is to pick a consistent location. As you can see here, I have this beautiful book reading tent that is probably not achievable in reality. I'm sure that you don't have this spare room that's solely dedicated to book reading in your house. However, establishing a consistent location does not have to be elaborate. It can be as simple as reading next to your child in bed every single night, or it could be sitting on the rocking chair and having your child sit next to you while you read a book on the rocking chair. It could even be sitting on a step on the porch, as long as it's a place that they can consistently look to as their book reading spot. The second part of establishing a routine would be to have a consistent time. A lot of families will just read books before nap time or before bedtime. It could be a different time throughout the day, as long as the child can look to that time as a book reading time and they can look forward to that experience. And then the third part of building this book experience that I like to add is to have a book buddy. I have my little fox here, and having a book buddy is just something that makes it more fun for a child. The more enjoyable that the book reading time is, obviously, the more willing they will be to participate. So if you have a little animal or a little friend that your child can have next to them whenever they read books, that'll just make it that much more enjoyable. So after we've established the routine, obviously we have to have a book. And I like to tell families that the actual book that you have is less important than the person reading the book. So you as the parent are so much more important than the repertoire of books that you might have in your house. While I say that, I do really love this book that I have. It's called the Polka Dot Book, Good Night Animals. And the polka dot books are a series. They have different themes, but I like the Good Night theme because it kind of goes along with a routine of reading before bed or reading before nap time. And it just makes it that much easier to kind of lead into that nap time or bedtime experience. So the first thing that I want to do with a book is basically use it to allow the child to be as involved as possible. So if you're laying in bed with them and you're in their room, you might prop the book in front of them and let them kind of hold half of the page. Or you might, if you're in a rocking chair reading with them, just put it on your lap in front of them so that it can be at eye level. We want to make it as accessible to them as possible. And while I say that, a lot of parents might think, but then my child will just flip through all the pages and go crazy. And I have a strategy for helping with the crazy flipping through pages. So one of the speech therapists that I've seen will encourage the child every single time they want the page to be turned. Instead of them being able to flip it, they have to tell their parent, turn page. Or if your child can't say turn page, they might just say turn. Or it could be as simple as the child patting on the book twice if they aren't talking yet. So instead of the craziness of going through all the pages in 5 seconds, they've got to do the tap. Another strategy that I like that I've heard of is telling the child that this is a magic book and that with each page they have to do a magic trick before turning the page. And this is awesome because it teaches children to follow simple directions. So my magic trick on this page might be poke the chicken, and then we can turn the page after the magic trick happens. On this page it might be pinch the pig, and then the next page it might be pet the bee. So every single time you have some simple direction that your child can learn to understand, or they might already understand. And they've got to do that trick before they turn the page. So it not only eliminates that crazy turn page turning that we want to avoid, but it also allows your child opportunities to follow simple directions, because a lot of you parents are trying to help your child learn how to follow those directions and learn how to understand the words that you're saying. So those are just opportunities for repetition of giving those simple directions. So another thing that I love to do when reading books to children is to create what I call a verbal routine. So a verbal routine is any time that something happens over and over again and we attach a repetitious phrase or even sound or word to that event. So our event in the case of book reading would be turning the page. So anytime that a page is turned and we get to a new page, there might be a repetitious phrase that we use each time. And some books come with the repetitious phrases already in the text. For example, my book says, "Good night, chicks. It's time to rest. Please snuggle down inside your nest." And then the next one is, "Good night, pigs. Snug in your pen. It's time to go to sleep again." So those phrases aren't particularly repetitious. They just kind of rhyme and are something that happens in succession. But we can create our own repetitious phrases that our child might be more inclined to imitate. For example, if I have a child who's using 2 or 3 word phrases and I want them to be able to kind of be engaged in this book reading, every single time I show them the page, I might just ignore the text on the page and say, "Good night, chicks." And then they might want to look at all the chicks. And then I could say, "Good night, pigs." And then, "Good night, bees." And then, "Good night." And then just see if they know the name for ducks. And you can do that little pause. That pause allows them to fill in the blank, and it allows them to be an active participant in the book reading instead of a passive listener. So anytime that we can create this repetition and then at some point just pause to allow them to fill it in, that is super exciting to them, and it allows them the opportunity to be engaged. One of the reasons I love these polka dot books is because they have, I'm sure you've noticed, these little buttons. When you push them, they snap. And even as an adult, I love these books because they're so fun. But like I said, you can do these kind of activities with any book. It doesn't have to have the fancy snap, but you can use repetition while book reading, even with single words. So for example, this has a bunch of little chicks. So we might go chick, 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 chick. So every time you point to the chick, it doesn't have to have the button, you can say that word. And then you might get to the point where the child is excited about hearing you say chick. Oh, we've got this weirdness with the background. And you might go chick, 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 chick. And then do that pause again and allow them to fill it in. And they might not say the word chick. If they're still working on their speech sounds, they might say ch, or they might say ick. They might say anything that's a word approximation. And that's great because we're encouraging them to use those speech sounds that they're still working on. Something else that I like to tell families is I like to avoid bombarding children with questions just because it's overwhelming for a child, especially a child who's still learning language. So as we're going through a book like this, I might, instead of saying, "What's that? What's that? What's that? What's that?" I might do something like this. "Show me the moon. Where's the moon?" Or again, we can use it as an opportunity to do those simple directions like, "Let's pet the sheep. Let's pet the sheep. Let's pick the flower." And so we can give simple directions or ask them where things are without bombarding them with tons of questions that are the same. "What's that? What's that? What's that? What's that?" I'm sure you've noticed that throughout this demonstration, I've been using some different tones of voice and different volumes. And we call that increased prosody when we alter the intonation in our voice. And increased prosody is awesome with book reading because it encourages children to be engaged and excited about what you're saying, but it also makes it sound fun to say whatever word or sound that you're saying. So if I go pop, 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 your child might not just say the word pop on their own. And if you say pop, they might feel pressured and they might not want to do it. But if they see you saying pop over and over again in a funny voice or loud and then soft, they'll be more inclined to imitate that. And it'll just be an experience where they want to be a part of it and they want to copy you. So I hope that I've demonstrated to you that whatever level of language or speech that your child is currently at, you can use whatever book to kind of tailor that book to their level of understanding and also their level of language and speech development, to allow them an opportunity to not only hear you using new words and sounds, but for them to imitate those words and sounds and perhaps expand their speech and language repertoire. Thanks so much for joining me for Stories with Samantha.